Hey guys, it's your girl Kay, and welcome back to my channel. I know it's been like 2 weeks since I've posted a video. I apologize. I started school back and I got so busy that I tried to get in like a little bit of a flow state, you feel me? And I got so busy that I didn't even like upload for 2 weeks. But I'm back now. So in this video, I'm going to be doing a video that I've never done before, which is a book review, or not just a book review, but a book series review. I'll be reviewing all of the books in the Latlark saga. So, there are 4 books in this series, and then 2 novellas, and it's an incomplete series, which means that there's still books coming out. But I really want to do a review of the first few books that are already out. And the reason why is because this is the first fantasy series that I've read that is young adult. I've only ever read like romance, I've read like The Summer I Turned Pretty and A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. So this is me dipping my toe into the fantasy genre a little bit. So I wanted to give my opinion on this series. And I also know that this series has a lot of mixed reviews and a lot of mixed opinions, and some people like it, some people hate it, some people are in between, some people are indifferent. So it's just it's a series that I kind of wanted to give my own 2 cents about first, coming from somebody who hasn't read a lot of fantasy and read this for the first time. Kind of went in blind because I bought this book without looking at any of the reviews prior to that, so I went in completely blind, not knowing what the book was about. So I feel like I'm entitled enough to give a non-biased review of this book. So let's go. So this is the first book in the Latlark saga, which is obviously Latlark. So let's take a look at the cover. There's the spine, the back, and the edges. They're red for some reason. I bought the collector's edition of the first book before I bought the paperback. This was the one that I read, because it was pretty, so I bought it. That's how I discovered the series, was because I was like, oh, that book's pretty, I'm gonna buy it and read it. So I ordered this one last month on Walmart's website, and they gave me one with red spread edges for some reason. Don't know why, but they did. So I actually haven't read this one, or this copy of it, but I've read the book. This is the first one, and this one was published in 2022, and I think out of 5 stars, I rated the first book in the series 3. And I rated it 3 because entertainment-wise, it was okay. It was really slow at the beginning of the book because it was a lot of world building and a lot of, like, there's 6 different realms, and there's a different curse for each different realm. And so there was a lot of, like, you had to learn and you had to kind of pick up on, like, who was from what realm and what curse and what powers each person from each realm had. So there was just, like, a lot of, like, world building and a lot of, like, stuff like that you kind of had to pick up on. So it took me a few months to get through, like, the first, like, this half of the book, because it was just a lot of world building and just, like, a lot of coming up with things and, like, kind of getting, like, in a flow state. Before the plot of the book actually happened. And the main character of this book, Isla Crown, and I think her name is pronounced Isla. I pronounced it Isla when I first read the book, but the author pronounces it Isla, so I'm pretty sure it's Isla Crown. But she low-key kind of pissed me off this book. The other books, I loved her, I adored her. But this one, I remember, like, being so irritated with her, and I don't remember specifically why. I know part of the reason was, like, she spent her entire childhood training because she didn't have any powers, which was a rarity. Every single person in each realm is born with powers. Even if you're not royal, you're born with powers, and so she was born without any powers. And she's also immune to the curses that affect the wildlings, because she's the ruler of the wildlings. And so because she didn't have any powers, she was kind of quarantined her entire life. Like, her guardians, because her parents died when she was a baby, her guardians kind of just kept her locked up in her bedroom and kind of quarantined her. They didn't want anybody to meet her, anybody to see her, because she didn't have powers. So they kind of ruled in her stead for a while. And they trained her from like the moment that she could walk and talk. They started training her, and their training tactics were like really brutal to the point that they were just kind of like abuse and not really training anymore. So she trained her entire life because they knew that the Centennial was coming up, and the Centennial takes place on the island of Lightlark. And there's no map in this book. The other books in the series have a map in them. It'd be so much easier for me to show you with a map. So I'm gonna open up the collector's edition because it has a map on the front. Okay, this is Lightlark. All of this is Lightlark, okay? And you see how there's like Starling, there's, you know, Sun Isle, Star Isle, Sun Isle, Sky Isle, Wildling Isle, you know, Wild Isle, all the different isles, right? Because at one point, all of the different realms were one. Every single realm lived on Lightlark. But after the curses were spun, they all kind of broke up, and they all kind of split up. And these are the new lands. So this is them after they split up in their own little, like, new lands, and then Nightshade is up here. So, after the curses were spun, they all kind of went their own separate ways. And Isla is the youngest ruler of the 6 rulers of the 6 different realms. She's the youngest. All of them are like hundreds of thousands of years old. Isla's like in her 20s. I don't remember how old exactly, but she's like in her 20s. Like there's multiple times throughout the series where they refer to her as like a kid because she's just so, I don't know if it's a kid necessarily, but they talk about like how young she is because she's literally like not even a fraction of their age. Like she's so young and they're so old. So her guardians trained her from when she was like 2 all the way up into her being an adult because she didn't have any powers. And so the Centennial is a thing that happens every 100 years on Lightlark, where one of the 6 rulers, or all 6 rulers come to Lightlark, and there's like 100 days. And within those 100 days, each ruler does their own like presentation where they demonstrate their powers. And they just kind of get to like know each other and things like that. And they live on Lightlark in the Lightlark Castle, and Oro, who is the king of Lightlark, hosts the games or whatever. And after the 100th day, they are allowed to kill each other. And if one person dies, then all of the curses are broken. So, Isla obviously not having any powers and all the other people having powers kind of gives them an advantage over her. So she trained extremely hard her entire childhood. And there was multiple parts in this book where Isla was in danger. Like, she got abducted one time. There was another time, like, people in the Vinderland, like, shot her in the chest. And another time where I think those same people, like, threatened her and a bunch of stuff. Like, she was abducted multiple times throughout this book, that's all I know. And instead of her using her fighting skills that she's had since she was, like, 2, she decided that she was just gonna wait for one of the men to show up and save her. Like, I know you ain't got any powers, but that doesn't mean that, like, you have to sit around and wait for a man to save you, girl. She's very innovative, too. So the fact that she kind of just waited for a man to save her was a little... girl. Other than that, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the plot. I'm trying not to give too many spoilers. I don't want to talk about the main plot because I don't want to spoil it too much. I really enjoyed it. There's like a love triangle dynamic in here too, which was something that I wasn't expecting, because when she first meets Grimm and Oro, because Grimm is the ruler of Nightshade and Oro is the ruler of Lightlark, so they're very polar opposites. Oro has like always wears like gold armor. Like each person kind of has like their own assigned color. Basically, Isla's is red, Oro's is like yellow, gold, and Grimm's is black. And Grimm is the first person that Isla meets when she arrives on Lightlark. He's like the first person that she meets, and they actually have a little bit of history that isn't brought up until the very end of the book, and that's all I'm gonna tell you. But they have a little bit of history. He's the first person that she meets, and he's like described to be this really tall guy that wears armor and all black and has this dark black hair, and that's how he's described. And so it's really interesting. I'd imagine you walk through a portal and that's the first person that you see. And her first meeting with Oro is she falls off a balcony and he catches her because she doesn't have any powers. So, that's, like, the only moment where I was like, oh, okay, it's valid for someone to catch her, because if not, she's gonna fall to her death. But, yeah, no, there's a lot of things that go on in this book. I think that there's a lot of different plot points. There's an enemies to lovers trope. Her and Oro, they hate each other. I don't know why. Every interaction that they have is a really bad one. They just don't like each other for some reason. They have a really bad aura. But they end up falling in love with each other and a bunch of stuff. Enemies to lovers, and it's also a love triangle. It's a love triangle between her, Grimm, and Oro, but her and Oro also are enemies to lovers. So it's really weird. They just tried to pack any trope that they basically could into this book. I think I gave it 3 stars when I first read it. It wasn't the worst book that I've read, but it also, like, wasn't the best either. Like, there's definitely better books out there, but it's not bad. But it's, like, there's better out there. The other books in the series are a lot superb. So, do with that information what you will. I'm going to go ahead and go into more detail with the collector's edition of the first book, because I did like it enough that I kept the collector's edition, but it comes in this cute little case, and it has a little quote on the back that basically summarizes the book pretty well. There are lies and liars all around you. Yeah. And here's what the cover looks like. It's just like this black kind of fabric with gold foil. And it has just a bunch of thorns and flowers with a rose in the middle. That you kind of find that the rose is kind of Isla's like signature symbol because she's a wildling. And then there's a sword, and the back has the same thing but with a crown. And then here's the spine and these sprayed edges. They're red, and it has 6 crowns, 1 for each ruler. So that's Isla, the wildling ruler, Azul, skyling ruler, Celeste, starling ruler, Oro, king of Lightlark and sunling ruler, Grimm, nightshade ruler, and Cleo, moonling ruler. So in here we also get maps on both covers. So there's one in the front and one in the back. And then also another little bonus feature that you get in here is you get a special chapter that you only get in this version. It's like the special edition chapter, and it's one of the chapters that's already in the book, but it's from someone else's point of view, not Isla's. So that was a pretty cool thing to read. And then there's a bunch of fan art in the back. So we have Miss Isla. I don't know why I wasn't cast to play Isla. I look just like her in the movie. They should cast me. And then this is Isla walking through the portal and meeting Grimm. You know, why not? And then we have Grimm and Oro. Again, polar opposites. That's the love triangle. We have Azul and Celeste, two of the other rulers. And then we have the last ruler, which is Cleo, and she's the moonling ruler. So that was the first book. And now we're on to the second book, which I also have in paperback, and that is Nightbane. This one I love so much more than I loved the first one. This one, so much better than the first one, and I've never said that about a book series ever before, because I always feel like with book series, the first one's good, and then the rest of them is like, okay, now you're dragging out the story, and it's not good. But with this one, I feel like it was so much better than the first one. I think they finally got into a flow state where they knew what they were doing. And there's not really much that I can tell you about this book, because if I tell you what happens in this book, then I'll be spoiling stuff that happens in the first book. So it's really hard to do a review without giving any spoilers. I do recommend that you read this series if it sounds like something that's interesting to you, because there's just a lot of parts of the book that I can't tell you about because they'll ruin the plot of the book. Basically, they'll spoil the book. So I just recommend that you read it on your own. And give it a little bit of a chance, because I know at the beginning it's kind of slow and it's really hard, but once you get in there, it is so stinking good. But we have the second one, and this one I think I gave 5 stars, which I know like a lot of people would be like, that book wasn't even that good, but I really liked it. It kept me entertained. I finished it so quickly. I think I finished it in like 2 days, and I've never finished a 400-page book in 2 days, so that was really rare. I was also on fall break because I finished it in like October, so it's been a little bit, but I like ate it up. I ate it up. And this book does, I mentioned before, it's like a love triangle, right? This book, and the third book in the series, they do something with a love triangle that I've never seen done with a love triangle before, or I've never heard about being done. So this book and the third book, how they write the love triangle in such an interesting way. And I feel like I cannot speak. I feel like that is why I like this series, or this book specifically, and this one, as much as I do. I feel like because of the way that the love triangle is written. So this book, Isla stays on Lightlark with Oro. She broke the curses, I'll tell you that much. She broke the curses in the first book. I'm not gonna tell you how, but she broke them. So there's no more curses. And so she decides to stay on Lightlark with Oro. Because she doesn't like Grimm anymore. She's mad at Grimm. So she doesn't like Grimm anymore. But this book is written in such, and I can't tell you about the love triangle because it's gonna spoil the first book. Fudge. Okay, but the love triangle is written in a really interesting way because she spends 90% of this book with Oro. Like, the first book introduces us to Grimm and Oro. This book, she spends 90% of it, despite it looking like it would be about Grimm. She spends most of the time in this book with Oro. And the only time you ever see Grimm is in dreams. Like, she has more dreams. She had dreams in the first book about Grimm. Every time she went to sleep, she'd have a dream about Grimm. And she has those same dreams in this book. So the only time you ever see Grimm is in her dreams, when she's dreaming about him. And there's, like, one part in the middle where she, like, summons him and he shows up and talks to her. But other than that, like, you only see him in the dreams, and then he appears at the end. That's it. In dreams and at the end. Other than that, 90% of this book is spent with Oro. And in this one, Skyshade, 90% of the book is spent with Grimm. And you only ever see Oro 2 times. Once in the middle, he shows up to check on Isla, and then in the end. I've never seen a love triangle written in that way before, ever. Because the first book introduces us to both of our love interests. Then the second book, she spends almost entirely the entire book with one, occasionally the other one popping in. And then the third book, she spends it with the other love interest. And then the other one pops in occasionally. I've never seen a love triangle written in that way before, because it gives such a fair shot to both of the love interests. Because normally with, like, love triangles, and I've read a fair share of love triangles. Typically in love triangles, you can tell from the first book who the main character is going to end up with, because she always has the most scenes with the person that she's going to end up with, and the most chemistry, and the most tension, and blah, 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 right? But this series was wrote in such an, and I don't know if it was done intentionally, but it was just wrote in such an interesting way that you get an entire book with one love interest and an entire book with the other. I love that. I think that was a phenomenal way to write the series. I thought that was so interesting. I don't know if it was done intentionally. I think it's too coincidental for it not to be intentional. But I feel like that alone kind of helped me give this one its score, because I've never seen a love triangle written like that ever. Because it gives both love interests such a fair fighting chance to win you over to their side. I thought it was phenomenal. I thought it was great, and I loved it. That's why I gave this one 5 stars. Plus the plot was really interesting. It kept me really entertained, and I can't tell you much about the plot without spoiling it, but just know I really enjoyed this one, and I thought that it was great. And this is what the cover looks like up close. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be Nightshade. I also have the collector's edition of that one as well, because I loved it so much. I really had to buy the collector's edition for it. So it says, Love Kills Kingdoms. If you read the book, you'll know what that means. I recommend that even if you don't like the first one, you read through it, so that way you can get to the second one. Alright, so here's the book, and this is the front, and there's really important detail on the cover of this book that you're not going to notice unless you look hard enough. But the front of this book is black, and it has, like, silver foil, whereas the other one had gold. And you can see the dragon down here, because there is a dragon in this book, and I love books with dragons. I love a good dragon. I eat it up. It's only in, like, 1 chapter, but there is a dragon nonetheless. There's a dragon, and then you see the moons that represent Grimm and the crown. And then the thorns with the flowers falling off of the thorns. Very important detail. That's supposed to represent Isla, right? So the thorns have the flowers falling off the thorns. Then on the back, we have the fire that represents Oro, and the flowers are fully bloomed, but on this side, the flowers were dead. But on this side, they're alive. I love that. I loved the way that was done. I loved it. This one also has a map on the inside. It's blue. Oh, and the sprayed edges. Look how pretty. The really pretty blue color. This one also has a bonus chapter, which is just another chapter from Grimm's point of view. Same thing as the other one, had another chapter from Grimm's point of view. And then our fan art, we have Isla and Lynx, which is her pet panther. I know it's a panther and it's named Lynx. It's really weird. But that's its name. I don't know. I didn't name it. She didn't name it either. I can't tell you what this scene is. I'm going to show you the photo, but I can't tell you what it is because it's going to spoil the series. So I'm just going to show it to you. And you can make your own assumptions about what it is because I can't tell you. We have Grimm and Oro. Cuties. They look so angry. We have this image of Isla. Kind of like choosing between Grimm and Oro. In a way. And then Grimm walking with arrows in his back. Very important part of the series. Of this book. Even though he only appears in her dreams. Throughout most of the book. Alright. And that brings us to the third book, which I can't tell you anything about because it will spoil the book. What I can tell you is that the first two were in paperback and this one's in hardcover. It was released in hardcover, not paperback. And Nightbane was published in 2023. I forgot to mention that. This was published in 2024. There's like a new one every year. Let me show you the cover of this one. It's a Scotch Egg. And it also has a freaking map. The first one did not. But this one, people kind of refer to it as like a filler book. Like a kind of a book that you just kind of read that has kind of filled the time for the next book to come out. As I mentioned, she spends most of the time in this book with Grimm, and I can't really tell you why, because it'll spoil it. Just know there is a reason. And she spends like the vast majority of this book just hating Grimm. Like she just hates him. She hates him. She's a very valid reason to hate him, but she hates him, right? And so they have like the grumpy sunshine dynamic of like he's doing everything that he can to like appease to her and make her comfortable and all this stuff for her, and she's just not having it. Like she just doesn't like him. And I love that trope of like one of the people hates the other one and the other one's like so madly in love with them even though the other person hates them. I eat that trope up. So it ran with the love triangle thing really well, but it also ran with those kind of tropes really well. I really enjoyed it. I know that people thought it was a filler book. I thought it was really good. It was definitely a filler book, but it was a really entertaining filler book. And there's a lot of like brutality in this book for some reason. Like Isla runs around and cuts like people's heads off and crap, and I can't remember why. But she does. I don't know if it's their heads she cuts off, but she like just runs around killing people and nerfing people and crap. It's really weird. But I liked it. I think I gave this one 4 stars. It's definitely better than the first one, but not as good as the second one. If I could rank it higher, I would, but I feel like because it's a filler book, I can't really do that. The end of this book, though, has a really interesting, like, piece of lore that leads into the 4th book. But the end of this book is really, really important. There's no collector's edition for this one yet, but when there is, you bet your buns I'm going to get it. But I do recommend that if you do ship Grimm and Isla, to read this one. Thank me later. Alright, and then in like September of 2025, this one came out because I guess it was just like to hold us over until the 4th book came out, because the 4th book didn't come out until December. Like I just finally finished it. But this is the Grimm and Oro novellas. So one side has Oro, the other side has Grimm, and it's just a bunch of scenes from the past 3 books, but from their points of view instead. And look how gorgeous this is. This is Oro's side, and this is Grimm's side, and then there's the spine, and these sprayed edges Oh my goodness, girl. And there's also images on the inside, but I don't think I can show you. Actually, if I show you the images and I don't tell you what they are, it should be fine, but you can probably tell because you're not dumb. There's the image, very important part of the first book. And then there's just more fan art, but it's the same fan art from the previous books. So, and then I don't know if I should show you Grimm's side. I'm gonna show you really quickly. That's all you need to see. That's a big spoiler. That's a big spoiler. I don't think I rated this one though, because it's technically 2 books in one. One side's Oreos, this side's Oreos, and then this side's Grimm's. So I don't think that I rated it. All I know is that I didn't enjoy it. To be honest, I think this book, I don't hate it, but I think I gave it like 2 stars. If I'm rating both sides, right now I'd give it 2 stars. I didn't like this. I didn't enjoy it. I had to kind of force myself to read it because everyone hyped it up. Everyone was so excited about it, and this just wasn't my favorite. I felt like it was unnecessary. It was 100% a money grab. And a lot of the scenes in here aren't even like the important scenes. Like I feel like all the scenes that we wanted their point of views for were the scenes that we didn't get their points of views for. Because for Grimm, it only goes up to like a certain point and then it stops. Like it doesn't even go into like the books. With Oro's side, it only talks about his point of view from the first book and a little bit of like his childhood and his background and stuff. So I don't really think you have to read that. Like there are some characters that are introduced in that book that are mentioned in the 4th book, but it kind of fills you in on who they are as it mentions them, so you don't really need to read that one. If you want to, you definitely should. I think you should if you're going to read the series, but I don't think that it's like a necessity. And then we finally have the 4th book in the series that I literally just finished yesterday. I just finished it yesterday. It took me that long. It came out on December 2nd, and I just finished it. The holidays really threw me off. Like, I didn't read, like, the entire week of Christmas. Like, it really threw me off. But this is it. This one is the Walmart exclusive cover, and the inside. I think it's the same cover at every store. It's just different colors, and the map on the inside is pink, which we all know, my favorite color. This one I gave 4 stars. No. I can't check because I wrote it on my phone and I'm filming on my phone. I think I gave it 3 stars. I didn't enjoy this one that much. The end and the middle I enjoyed, but the beginning of it was so boring and so slow, and I was like, girl, this is more boring than watching paint dry. But as I got deeper into it, it got more interesting. And it ended on a cliffhanger, so there's obviously going to be more books. Near the end of it, though, I was like grasping my chair and I was jaw-dropping, and I was making verbal sounds because, like, audible sounds because of some of the plot twists in this book. But other than that, it wasn't anything worth waiting 3 months for. I feel like it was another filler book, to be quite honest. Like, I feel like this one should have been the filler book. And I'm not sure how many more books are coming out in the series, but I think the 2 middle books are the ones that I recommend the most. Anyways, that concludes my review of the Lightlark series. Or the Lightlark saga. So now I'm going to give you my honest opinion of if you should read the series. In my opinion, should you read the series? Should you take the time to read the series? My answer is going to be yes. There was a lot of things about this series that I couldn't tell you. Like the entire plot of the 4th book, if I had told you the plot of the book, I would have spoiled the other 3 books. Like there's just no way for some of the books in this series for me to tell you what happens without spoiling it. Even the synopsis of like the 3rd book literally spoils the entire plot of the 2nd one. So like there's just like some things that like I could not tell you about. So this review was kind of murky, I guess you could say, but there wasn't much that I can tell you. So I just think that you need to read it for yourself first, give it a chance, and if you don't like it, that's perfectly okay. We all don't have to like it. I think it is a series that you should read once because it has very interesting characters, very interesting plot points. It does take some of the plot points and run with them so far that the line of thread gets so thin and you get really worn out with it. But other than that, like it's so good. It's so fun. I love the series. It has a really close place in my heart. It was the first fantasy series that I ever picked up. So do I recommend that you read it? Yes. And that concludes my review of the Light Lurk series. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next week.